Location: Suburban Community Pool, Georgia. Date: June 27th, 2024. Time: 3:28 p.m. She told him he didn't belong, made him feel small in front of others. But when her son began drowning, none of that mattered anymore, because the boy she tried to exclude, he was the only one who acted. This isn't just a story about saving a life. It's about breaking barriers, changing hearts, and the power of doing what's right, even when others treat you wrong. Stay with us, because some moments leave ripples long after the water settles. The afternoon sun reflected like diamonds on the surface of the pool. Children laughed and splashed in the shallow end. Parents lounged in recliners with sunglasses and cold drinks, flipping through magazines or scrolling phones. Everything looked perfect on the surface. In one corner, 13-year-old Jaden sat alone on a pool chair, knees drawn up, a sketchbook open in his lap. His pencil moved with calm precision, drawing lines and shadows while his feet dangled just above the pavement. He was not there for the pool. He was there for his younger cousin, who was still finishing up swim lessons across the deck. Jaden's aunt worked double shifts, and it was his job to walk his cousin home. He had done it every Tuesday that summer. Jaden liked the quiet, the break from noise. He liked the way the pool's blue shimmered like stained glass. He liked being near people without being in the middle of things. It gave him room to think. That moment ended with a voice. "Excuse me, this area is for residents only." The words sliced through the air. Sharp, controlled, public. A woman stood at the edge of Jaden's chair. Blonde hair, designer sandals, manicured fingers wrapped around a tall drink. Her name was Christine. Jaden had never seen her before. She did not ask if he was visiting. She did not check the list at the front gate. She saw a boy sitting alone and decided something. Jaden looked up from his sketchbook. "I'm just here with my cousin." Christine scoffed. She shook her head. Her eyes scanned the pool and then narrowed again. "Well, you shouldn't be here without a resident." Jaden did not reply. He lowered his eyes, pencil still in hand. Christine walked off. Her heels tapped against the concrete as she disappeared behind a row of umbrellas. Not 10 minutes later, the screams began. "Where are you watching from, and what time is it?" Drop it in the comments. Jaden lived with his grandmother in a modest townhouse just outside Atlanta. Their neighborhood sat near the city line, where rows of red brick homes met winding sidewalks and tall oaks. The walls of their home were filled with family photos and the scent of fresh cornbread on Sundays. It was quiet, steady, filled with the kind of love that did not need to be loud. His mother, a traveling nurse, was often gone for weeks at a time, sending voice notes and snapshots from different cities. She had raised Jaden to be patient, quiet, and kind. She reminded him often that kindness was not weakness, that silence could hold more strength than shouting. Jaden took those lessons to heart. At 13, he was a straight-A student, artistic, and deeply introspective. He carried a sketchbook everywhere, not just to draw, but to observe. He would fill its pages with street corners, faces in crowds, and quiet moments others might miss. "Jaden's always been different," his grandmother would say to anyone who asked. "But he sees things most people miss." He wasn't new to judgment. It followed him in quiet ways. The way store clerks asked twice if he had money, the way strangers clutched purses in elevators, the way teachers sometimes seemed surprised when he aced tests. He felt it, heard it, knew it. But he never responded with anger. Only grace, a nod, a thank you, a returned book placed gently on the desk. Jaden had learned that people's assumptions had nothing to do with who he was. Christine, the woman by the pool, was not evil. She was a stay-at-home mother of two who had grown up in the neighborhood her whole life. Her world had always looked the same. Her opinions softly inherited, her boundaries quietly enforced. She wasn't overtly cruel, but like many, she had absorbed biases without question. She believed herself fair. She volunteered at the school, donated to drives, sent polite complaints to the HOA about noise. But when she saw Jaden sitting alone at the pool, her instinct was not curiosity, it was caution. A reflex, one she would not realize until much later had roots deeper than she'd ever examined. Her son Aiden was 6 years old, wild, joyful, endlessly curious. He had just started swim lessons and loved every second of it. He laughed loudly, splashed carelessly, and swam with the fearless belief that nothing could ever go wrong. Until the day something did. Have you ever been judged before people knew who you really were? Tell us your story. The sun still shimmered across the pool's surface, but the air shifted. Aiden had been playing near the edge, jumping and laughing, a blur of arms and splash. Christine sat on a lounger nearby, chatting with another mother. Her sunglasses shielded her eyes, her hand curled around a drink, her attention drifting. It only took a second. Aiden's feet lost traction. His body pitched forward. He plunged headfirst into the deep end, no floaties on, no one close enough to catch him. There was a splash, a silence, then panic. The water rippled. Aiden did not resurface. Jaden looked up. From his chair in the corner, he saw the shift, saw the water pattern change, saw Christine rise and scream, "Aiden!" But she did not move. Other adults turned, wide-eyed and frozen. Some stood. Some reached for phones. None stepped forward. Jaden's notebook slid from his lap. He was on his feet in an instant. He ran, past the row of chairs, past the towel bins, straight toward the deep end, shoes still on. He did not pause. He dove. The water was colder than he expected, a sudden pressure in his ears. But he opened his eyes and scanned quickly. Aiden's small body was sinking, limbs flailing in slow motion. His mouth was open, eyes wild with confusion and fear. What would you do in a life-or-death moment? Comment below. The water was colder than he expected, a sudden pressure in his ears. But he opened his eyes and scanned quickly. Aiden's small body was sinking, limbs flailing in slow motion. His mouth was open, eyes wild with confusion and fear. Jaden kicked hard, propelled downward, arms reaching. He wrapped one arm around Aiden's waist and pulled upward with every ounce of strength he had. Above the surface, gasps erupted as Jaden broke through, coughing and pulling Aiden with him. Water poured off them both. Aiden sputtered, wheezed, then cried. A lifeguard, late but running full speed now, knelt just as Jaden reached the edge. Christine dropped to her knees, tears streaking her face, taking her son into her arms. She held him close, whispering his name over and over. Aiden coughed against her shoulder, sobbing. Jaden stood a few feet away, dripping, heart racing, eyes wide. The entire pool watched, silent again. The lifeguard turned to Jaden, voice low but filled with awe. "You saved him. You saved his life." Have you ever had to be the brave one when others froze? Tell us how it felt paramedics arrived within minutes. Their uniforms bright against the summer sun, they moved quickly, checking Aiden's breathing, listening to his heart, asking questions in calm, even tones. Aiden clung to his mother, trembling, but conscious. He was okay, shaken but unharmed. Christine sat on the edge of the pool chair, holding her son tightly. Her hands would not stop shaking. She kept repeating the same words under her breath. He could have died. He could have. But she never finished the sentence. Jaden stood a short distance away, wrapped in a towel someone had handed him. His clothes clung to his frame, soaked and heavy. His chest still rose and fell with adrenaline, but his expression stayed calm. The lifeguard gave his report to the paramedics, pointing to Jaden as the first responder. They nodded and made notes. Christine finally stood. Her face was streaked with tears, eyes red and raw. She walked toward Jaden, hesitating before she spoke. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice cracked. "I misjudged you. I saw you sitting alone, and I assumed I was wrong." Jaden looked up, his face unreadable for a moment. Then he gave a small nod. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Your son's safe. That's what matters." Christine covered her mouth, speechless, then turned back toward Aiden. Jaden's younger cousin ran over and threw his arms around Jaden's waist. He held on tight, whispering how scared he had been. Jaden hugged him back, resting a hand on the back of his cousin's head. On the pool chair nearby, Jaden's sketchpad sat, crinkled and wet, pages warped from where it had fallen. The drawing inside was smudged beyond repair. But Jaden did not look at it. He had made something more important than a picture. The pool slowly returned to motion. People murmured again. Children began to play cautiously, but the air held a different weight. People glanced Jaden's way with something new in their eyes, not suspicion, not pity, respect. One mother whispered to another, "That boy saved him. That boy with the notebook." Jaden sat down again, towel draped over his shoulders. The sun began to dry the water on his skin. He looked at the pool, then at his cousin, then at the sketchpad. What mattered most had not washed away. What matters more, being right or doing right? Drop your thoughts later that evening. The house was quiet. The sun had dipped low, casting warm gold across the living room walls. Jaden sat on the couch with a blanket around his shoulders. His hair was still damp. His cousin had long since fallen asleep, curled up in a ball. Jaden's grandmother stood in the kitchen drying dishes when the phone rang. She picked it up, unsure of who would call so late. "Hello?" There was a pause. "Mrs. Thomas, this is Christine, from the pool." Jaden's grandmother stiffened. "Yes? I just wanted to say, I owe your grandson everything. He saved my son. He did what I didn't. He saw my child, not my judgment." Her voice broke slightly at the end. Jaden's grandmother said nothing for a moment, then replied with quiet strength. "He sees people. That's his gift. Thank you for calling." The next day, a knock came at their front door. Jaden answered it, expecting a neighbor. Christine stood there, holding a small wrapped package and an envelope. Her son Aiden clung shyly to her leg. "Hi," she said softly. "I wanted to give you this. It's not enough, but it's something." She handed him the package. Jaden opened it slowly. Inside was a waterproof sketchbook, the cover smooth and sealed against moisture. The envelope contained a card, hand-signed by Aiden in big, crooked letters. "Thank you for saving me." Jaden smiled, then looked up. "Thanks." Christine nodded and left with her son. No speeches, no lingering. Later, as the day faded, Jaden and his grandmother sat on the front steps, watching the last rays of sun stretch across the lawn. "How you feeling?" she asked. Jaden thought for a moment, still thinking about it, about the water, about how fast it all happened. His grandmother placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You were brave." Jaden opened his new sketchbook. On the first page he began to draw. A boy in the water. another reaching for him, their hands nearly touching. He titled it, "Breathe." He smiled softly. "This moment will stay with me forever," he said. Has someone ever surprised you with gratitude after you helped them? Share below. Jaden did not save Aiden for recognition. He did not leap into the pool for a thank you or a headline. He did not pause to weigh the risk or wait for someone older to act. He moved because a life was in danger, because it was the right thing to do. In doing so, he opened a door that had always been locked by assumption. Christine had seen a quiet boy sitting alone. She had seen his skin, his silence, his presence, and made a decision in her mind about who he was. That door was closed before a word had even been spoken. But when her son was sinking and the world seemed to freeze, Jaden did not. He saw the urgency. He heard the silence. He acted. Christine would later say in an interview, "That boy didn't just save my son, he changed me. I saw what I had failed to see before. I saw character where I had only looked for comfort." The story spread beyond the pool deck. Parents talked about it in group chats. Teachers shared the story with their students. A few local papers picked it up, describing Jaden as a quiet hero. But Jaden never spoke to the press. He had already said all he needed to by showing up when it mattered. In the weeks that followed, Jaden started a small initiative at his school. With help from his grandmother and his art teacher, he created a water safety program. It was simple: videos, infographics, a few guest speakers, but it reached dozens of students who had never learned how to swim. Jaden taught them how to stay calm, how to float, how to recognize the signs of someone struggling. He taught not from a place of authority, but from a place of care. "You do not need to be the strongest," he told one group. "You just need to be steady." His program grew slowly, but with purpose. And with it, so did the trust of the community around him. Jaden never sought to be known, but people began to know him, not for the sketchbooks or the silence or the stares he had learned to ignore. They knew him because when it counted, he made a choice rooted in courage, shaped by compassion, delivered in seconds. And that choice did not just change one life. It reshaped many. Jaden remains quiet, reflective. He still sketches, still sits alone sometimes. But when he walks into a room, more people see him now. Really see him. For the boy he always was, and the leader he has become. What did this story teach you about courage and compassion? Let's talk about it. A bystander's photo captured the moment. Jaden in midair, arms stretched forward, knees bent, water rippling below. Behind him, Christine stood frozen, one hand over her mouth. The image held everything: action, fear, instinct, and something more powerful than words. It went viral within hours. Headlines circled fast. Boy jumps into pool after being told he didn't belong. Social media took it further. The image was reshared with hashtags like "Hakso Courage," "Has no dress code," and "He belonged all along." Thousands of comments poured in. Strangers wrote about bravery, about bias, about what it means to act without hesitation. Jaden's name traveled farther than he ever imagined. News anchors spoke about him on morning shows. Talk show producers reached out for interviews. A few even offered to fly him and his grandmother to New York. Jaden politely declined most of them. "I just want to draw," he said, "and help kids learn to swim." That answer made even more people respect him. Local officials invited Jaden and his family to City Hall. In a small ceremony, the mayor presented him with a medal for civic bravery. A framed certificate read, "For showing our city what courage looks like in real time." Another document was signed right then and there. a proclamation declaring the following Friday Jaden Thomas Day. His school hosted a small assembly. Teachers who had watched him sketch in silence now stood and applauded. Classmates who had never spoken to him asked about his drawings. Jaden kept his responses simple. I just did what needed to be done. Meanwhile, in the neighborhood, something shifted. People who had once looked away started looking toward him. A few who had whispered quietly now spoke with confidence. Christine led the way. She told anyone who would listen that Jaden had opened her eyes. He taught me what judgment hides. He reminded me that real community starts with seeing one another clearly. Parents at the pool asked about water safety. Some asked Jaden to speak at their schools. He agreed on one condition: no microphones. Just a small group, a chalkboard, and a few drawings. Jaden's waterproof sketchbook filled up quickly. Not just with art, but with messages. Children signed their names. Adults left notes of thanks. Even Aiden wrote a second card. "You're my hero. I want to be brave like you." Jaden never called himself a hero, but the city did, and so did the people who mattered. If you could honor one quiet hero in your life, who would it be? Name them below Jaden's story did not fade with the summer. A year after the poolside rescue, his moment of courage became the focus of a short film. Funded by a local arts and safety initiative, it told the story from start to finish. No embellishments, just truth. Schools across the state began showing it during safety assemblies and inclusion workshops. In classrooms from Atlanta to Augusta, kids watched a quiet boy dive without hesitation and change everything. The film ended not with applause, but with a question on screen. What would you do if you were him? It sparked conversations teachers had hoped for, not just about water safety, but about perception, bravery, and kindness in unexpected places. Meanwhile, Christine changed too. Shaken by her initial judgment and moved by Jaden's grace, she joined her neighborhood association not just as a member, but as an advocate. She pushed for bias training in public spaces and challenged exclusionary rules that once went unquestioned. She often shared her story at meetings. "I almost missed the biggest lesson of my life because I thought I already knew who belonged." Her son, Aiden, grew up learning to swim the right way. He earned his first safety badge at age 7 and kept a framed drawing from Jaden on his desk. Whenever someone asked about it, he answered proudly, "A superhero saved me. He didn't wear a cape. He just moved." As for Jaden, he found a new rhythm. His drawings continued, but they found new purpose. He began volunteering with the Red Cross, helping organize youth safety workshops in libraries and recreation centers. He combined art and safety in ways no one else had before, creating coloring books that taught kids about how to float, how to find help, how to stay calm when things went wrong. He visited schools and answered questions from students who had seen his story on film. He stood at the front of classrooms where he once preferred to sit in the back. His message stayed simple. "They said I didn't belong," he told a group of young swimmers one day. "But sometimes you belong exactly where someone needs you." That line echoed across newsletters and PTA bulletins. It was printed on a banner during a youth safety expo the following spring. Jaden did not seek fame, but his story traveled because it mattered, because it reminded people that real change often comes from moments that feel small but reach wide. He still spent quiet afternoons sketching, still walked his cousin home from swim lessons, still listened more than he spoke. But wherever he went, his presence meant something more. He had become a symbol, not just of action, but of what happens when someone refuses to let the world decide who they are. His name became a quiet anthem for bravery. One boy, one choice. One legacy still unfolding. What legacy will you leave with one brave act? Comment below